Imagine this. Tomorrow, you board a plane, you leave your country. You arrive in London, Toronto, or New York. You unpack your bags. You order your first coffee. You hear English everywhere on the streets, on the train, at the supermarket, at work, like everywhere. 1 year later, are you fluent? Most people instinctively answer yes, because that's what we've always been told. Every year, thousands of people move to countries like Canada, Australia, the UK, and the US. Friends congratulate them. Families proudly say, now your English will become perfect. Everyone assumes the hardest part is over. But after nearly a decade of teaching English, I began noticing something that completely changed the way I understood language learning. Some of my students moved abroad. They finally reached the countries they had dreamed about. They were surrounded by English. They heard it every single day of their life. They used it for daily life, buying coffee, going to work, talking to strangers, and yet, months later, my phone rang or a message appeared. Teacher, can we continue our classes? Think about that for a moment. They weren't calling from Tehran anymore. They were calling from Toronto, Vancouver, Melbourne, Sydney, London. If they were already living in English, why were they still taking English sessions? If immersion surrounded them every single day, what exactly was missing? That question stayed with me for years, and eventually it became the investigation. This investigation. Because if living abroad is supposed to guarantee fluency, why do some learners still struggle to introduce themselves, join conversations, or express complex ideas even after months or years of living in an English-speaking country? What happened to immersion? What did we misunderstand about learning a language? That's today's investigation. Welcome back to the LinguaFox Investigation Series. Last time, we opened our first case. We asked why millions of learners study English for years without becoming fluent. And our verdict was simple. Studying isn't the same as learning. Today's investigation began with another belief, perhaps one of the most common beliefs in language learning. If I could just move abroad, everything would finally click. But before we accept that belief, let's investigate it. For decades, living abroad has presented itself almost like a shortcut. Move to Canada, move to Australia, move to the US, move to England, and fluency will naturally happen. Why do most people believe this? Because on the surface, it makes perfect sense. You're surrounded by English. You hear it every day. You need it to survive. Surely that must lead to fluency. But here's where every good investigation begins. With a contradiction. Consider two people. The first moves to London, works with people from the same country, lives with people from the same country, socializes only with the same community, uses English only when absolutely necessary. 5 years later, their English has improved, but not dramatically. Now consider someone else. They never leave their home country. Yet every day, every single day, they actively seek conversations, read books, write, listen carefully, notice patterns, reflect, practice speaking, receive feedback, and then after 5 years, their English is remarkably fluent. Same language, different environments, different outcomes. So perhaps the country was not the deciding factor. Let's ask a different question. What actually changes when someone moves abroad? Their address changes? Their zip code does? The surroundings change, their opportunities change. But does their learning automatically change? Not necessarily. Research on second language learning has consistently shown that simply being exposed to a language is not enough. What matters is how learners engage with that language through meaningful interaction, attention, feedback, and repeated use over time. In other words, opportunity is not the same as engagement. Living abroad gives you opportunities. It doesn't force you to use them. Here's something most people don't realize. Human beings naturally seek comfort. Imagine arriving in a new country. You feel homesick. You miss familiar food. You miss familiar conversations. Then you discover a community from your own country. And suddenly, your entire life happens in your native language. Your friends, your shopping, your social media, your weekends, even your workplace. Without realizing it, you have recreated home inside another country. Your passport changed, but your daily language habits did really not. So, what actually builds fluency? Not geography, not passports, not airports. What builds fluency is repeated, meaningful, active communication. Moments when your brain has to work, retrieve, negotiate meaning, notice mistakes, adjust accordingly, and try again. Those moments can happen in London, or Tehran, or Sao Paulo, or Tokyo, or Beijing, because fluency is not built by location, it's built by meaningful interaction. Living abroad is an advantage. Let's be clear about that. It creates opportunities that many learners would love to have. But opportunities are only valuable if we repeatedly turn them into learning experiences. Imagine joining a gym. The gym gives you access, but it does not build your muscles. You still have to train. Living abroad works the same way. The country gives you access. You still have to learn. Today's investigation is not saying don't move abroad. Far from it, basically. If you have that opportunity, embrace it, take it. Experience new cultures, meet new people, challenge yourself. But don't you dare expect geography to do the learning for you, because changing countries does not automatically change habits, and habits shape fluency far more than your zip code, your address. If there's one idea I hope stays with you after today's investigation, it's this. Changing your country doesn't automatically change your learning. Fluency is not hidden inside London. It isn't waiting for you in Toronto. It is not something the airplane gives you when you land. Fluency grows every time you engage deeply with language. Every meaningful conversation, every uncomfortable mistake, every moment of genuine attention. Living abroad can accelerate that process, but it cannot replace it. Maybe the better question was never, where should I learn English? Maybe the better question is, how am I engaging with English today? Because the place where your fluency grows is not on a map. It's in the habits that you practice every single day. Next time, we'll investigate another mystery. Every January, millions of learners promise themselves, this year, I'll finally become fluent. A few months later, the motivation disappears. Why? Is it laziness? Or have we completely misunderstood what motivation actually is? That's our next case. Until then, keep questioning. Because assumptions do not become true simply because they are popular and everybody is talking about them. This is the LinguaFox Investigation Series, Case File 2, closed.